Hey, we're back. We're back in action. This is round 3, third session. I wanted to mix and master this track with you guys live all the way through. So I've been waiting to do that, and this is it. This is the final round. This is the final countdown. And I'm probably going to spend another hour here, and I'm going to finish this mix up. So if you're here, let me know. Drop a comment. Let me know who you are. And we're going to get right back into the mix. If you joined us for the other 2 mixes, I also just dropped a link to the other lives where I'm mixing the same track. The beginning of the mix, the middle of the mix, and now we're at the final last bit of the mix here. And if you want to watch the beginning and the first 2 lives on this mix, I dropped the links right here in the description. So you're welcome to go through that whole thing. Once I finish this today, I will be pulling these lives down because, obviously I can't just keep them up in a public setting because it's not my song, right? So here we go. I'm going to be finishing off this mix, and I'm going to just play the song for you where it's at so you can get a little refresher and so I can get a little refresher. All right, so here it is. And this is kind of like a folk, like indie folk kind of vibe with electric guitar, acoustic guitar, banjo, all sorts of cool stuff. So let's play it for you.
Hey friend, can you lend an ear to my lengthy tale of woe? My life has been a troubled one, it started long ago.
Oh yes, I think I've heard you say things never go your way, things never go your way.
I was ignored, lonely and bored when I was a youth. I never liked the other kids, to tell the honest truth.
Oh, so I hear. You struggled all those years, you struggled all those years.
My parents failed and dreams derailed in the next atrocity when they couldn't pay my entire way through university.
Oh, life is cruel. If only you had better schools. If only you had better schools.
Whoa, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? Well, let me tell you now about my no-good rotten spouse. He goes out every night and leaves me in this wretched house.
Oh, what a sin. When did this all begin? When did this all begin?
We've been apart right from the start, he's never put me first. These things, they always happen to me, why am I so cursed?
Oh, what a shame. I guess your marriage was arranged. Guess your marriage was arranged.
No, not at all. Just thought I could make him change. Whoa, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? That's the past, the last of my worries at this point. The divorce is almost final, but the custody is joint.
Oh, that's too bad. I'm sure on weekends you'll be sad. Weekends you'll be sad.
No, in fact, I want him back to move in with his father. I rue the day that he was born, he's nothing but a bother.
I understand. Your pregnancy was never planned. Pregnancy was never planned.
No, that's not true. But now I'm trapped by his demands. Whoa, I can't take it anymore. must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there, and I'm going to focus on a couple things. I think the drums can be just a little bit more spitty, kind of in the mid-range. And one of my favorite things for this is going to be like an API EQ. I do want the track spacer to be the last thing in the drum set here because I do want to be ducking that area for the vocals. The vocals are the most important thing in this, and they do get lost in certain parts. So I'll be automating the vocals a little bit. And I'm also going to be messing around with this EBO because I want it to just be a little bit more spacious, maybe a little bit more in the back. And I'll show you how I do all that stuff. So let's first focus on getting these drums just to have a little bit more of that mid-range spank, which API is always going to be great for that because the transformers in the API. Anything API, right? So 550B is a great option for this. And just kind of like looking around maybe the 3K area, maybe the 1K area. We'll just kind of check out those areas. And I just want it to get a little bit more spitty up there. And let's not do a shelf. Let's do that. And let's try this out.
I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see.
Okay, so that's not doing what I want it to do. It's starting to clobber the vocals even more. So maybe what I'll do is I'll go to 1K, 1.5, and just try that out. And just get a little bit more smack out of that snare. And then I also want just a little bit more bottom as well from the kick drum and stuff. And because I'm treating the whole set, this is what I'm doing. I'm trying to EQ the whole set because this is just a stereo file of the drums altogether, which makes it a little bit harder, but you know, we'll get there. And I really like the 40 or 50 on kick drum. It's just incredible. Like it gives you that you know, in the stomach kind of thing. So I'm going to boost that just a touch. Yeah, I feel like that's going to make the drum sound a little bit more lively. And I put a little sparkle up there at 20K. We can take this to a shelf and just shelve up 20K. It's always cool. It helps also like the snare wires kind of come out, which I really like. So let's hear it in the mix though, because I don't want to clobber the vocals in any way.
I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? That's the past, the last of my worries at this point. The divorce is almost final, but the custody is joint.
Well, that's too bad. I'm sure on weekends you'll be sad.
No, in fact, I want him back to move in with his father. I rue the day that he was born, he's nothing but a bother.
I understand. Your pregnancy was never planned.
No, that's not true. But now I'm trapped by his demands.
So we might have to give the vocals something to help it cut just on those parts where the drums and everything's going. Because it just starts to get too bombastic on the top, upper mid stuff. and it's just clouding the vocals, right? Like I don't want to lose the vocal. So let's listen to these parts where the drums and the vocals are going at the same time. Something I like to do when I'm doing this, like I find something that's going to be a problem or combating against something else, is I'll just drag that track over and I'll look at like where it's, you know, this is really big here, and like just where they're overlapping, where the drums are getting really big and the vocals are playing at the same time. And you could just see like I already started to automate the vocals up there. But another thing I want to just try is I want to try to just automate on a plugin that's going to help it cut a little bit more, right, on just those parts. So I might go like 0.1 on a lo-fi, and that'll help it just kind of cut through the drum parts. And let's just kind of check that out for that area. And I'll A/B it for you as well, just so you can see how much just a 0.1 on a lo-fi can do for a vocal.
I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me?
Right, so that just helps it kind of stand out and push above those drums. And it just gives it kind of like a little bit of distortion to it, you know? And to really exaggerate that effect, I'll show you as I bring up this distortion. On lo-fi, this is like a really, really intense setting. Like if you do 0.2, 0.3, you're like going pretty heavy on it.
Whoa, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see.
So really, really powerful. Like just that little bit of touch of lo-fi is just kind of helps it pop up, right? So what we'll do with that is we'll just automate it on and off on those parts. So we can just have, you know, the lo-fi come in and out on when these drums get heavy. Like for example, like you don't need it here, right? It might sound like the vocals are way too on top with the lo-fi on right here.
But that's the past, the last of my worries at this point. The divorce is almost final, but the custody is joint.
Well, that's too bad. I'm sure on the weekends you'll say.
So very basically, you just want to actually turn that off and on just on the parts that need it, right? So super simple stuff. Let's just automate it off and on, just so we have an automation lane for it.
But that's the past, the last of my worries at this point. The divorce is almost final, but the custody is joint.
Well, that's too bad. I'm sure on the weekend.
Okay, and then so we have that. We'll just read now. And, oh, didn't show up. Hold on. So you go into here and you can go bypass. I'm just holding down Control Option Command on Pro Tools if you use Pro Tools, and then you can just enable the automation for the master bus off, bypass on and off. So now that'll be actually a lane here. So very, very simple stuff, but you know, something you should know. And then so this part here, we'll just kind of like turn that off. You know, we're gonna turn the bypass on, which is effectively turning that effect off. And then anywhere where we have the drums really going, we want to turn it on. We want to keep the bypass. So everywhere else, I'm going to go boop, and I'm going to bypass all that. And then anywhere like here, this is where the drums get going again.
No, in fact, I want him back to move in with his father. I ruled the day that he was born, he's nothing but a father.
I understand. You're playing.
No, that's not true. But now I'm trapped by his demands.
And I actually don't mind the lo-fi being on this part because it's really low level and it kind of helps it just stick out a little bit more. But the end part for sure, the lo-fi needs to be on.
Whoa, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure.
right, so there you go. Now you have the vocals kind of popping out on the choruses when everything gets going. And that's a combination because you have this electric guitar in here as well, which is really, really hard to, you know, get out of the vocal range. But we did some things. We EQ'd some stuff out of the middle using the mid, right? And we could do the same thing here on the top kind of spanky stuff, like the 3K kind of area to let the vocal shine a little bit more. And we just got a stereo placement, put that in the middle. And now we're just EQing out the middle around that 3K area. But we're not EQing the sides, which is where this guitar really sits, right? So let's just do that. We're just going to tuck it down a little bit. It doesn't need to be a lot. You could even do mid and then do dynamic, right? So just when it hits, and then I'll turn this up so that it's only ducking when that frequency really starts to get prevalent on some of the notes. But otherwise it's staying still, right? So that's a cool little trick with the Pro Q3 here. And then I can do that on the low guitar as well. So I have this EQ here. I can do that on the low guitar, but I don't think that that's going to be a problem frequency that's hitting that. So you can hear in the high guitar and the low guitar together soloed, just so you can hear how much highs and how much mid is coming into that.
I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me?
But I like the electric guitars being bombastic and big right there because it just makes the track kind of different than a normal folky, you know, banjo-y and drums sort of thing. What's up, Arlie? How you doing, man? Good to see you, dude. So it's all about just kind of making room, but then also understanding what's going to make the record unique and kind of what the colors you want to really bring out. And I think I'm going to keep that panning actually pretty wide here. Same thing here. So I'm just dipping the middle, you know? So like the middle of this is getting dipped when the vocals are hitting. And you can see that's from the bus, right? So the key bus. And that key bus is being sent from like the vocal mix bus, right? So as the vocals play, you can see that getting ducked in just those frequencies.
Whoa, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good.
So that's not actually working there. Let me make sure that my key is being sent right. So I'm going to go up to my vocal bus, which will be like my vocal mix or my all vocals, and make sure that that's being sent correctly. So if you go to like send on the vocal mix bus, what I can do is I can say, I'll send it to the key bus, which is this guy here at the bottom. And then I'm just going to send 100% to that. And then you'll see this start to target the side chain here because this is the key bus being on the side chain. So now it's going to recognize the side chain key, which is the vocal. It's being sent from the vocal mix bus to then key this area and duck it a certain amount. Wow, Pro Tools really didn't like that. It's like, whoa, that's a lot of processing, bro. I'm actually also going to take this send down just a little bit more. But we want to clear room for the vocals is the idea here. All right, let me just adjust my buffer size here. Getting into the final stuff. And then we're going to go to that E-bow guitar, and we're going to make sure that that's sitting cool. All right, so sometimes when this happens, like you got so much stuff going on, you got key buses and you got all this stuff kind of, you know, like all these plugins on all this stuff. A good thing to do is like freeze the tracks you're really not touching anymore, or just print them, right? Like just commit them is what we call it in Pro Tools. So the bass I know that I'm pretty just solid on, and there's a lot of processing going on here. There's even track space around this, which is taking in the key input on the key bus as well. So it's probably what's happening with Pro Tools is like it's saying, hey, that's a lot of stuff being bussed and like calculations we got to do with this track spacer stuff. So, and now that it's coming from the vocal mix bus, I think that's really what is like, whoa, that's too much, man. It's too much. It's crazy. So what I'll do for now, to make sure that we're not getting those limitations, is I'll go in and make sure that we don't have any heavy duty processing on the mix bus here. So for example, like if you go, make sure oversampling is not on the L2. You know, true peak limiting, you can leave that on. That's not a big deal. But we could even bypass the limiter for now, because that's just like our final stage. It's just giving us a little bit of level.
Tell you now about my no good rotten spouse. He goes out every night and leaves me in this wretched house.
What a sin. When did this all begin?
We've been apart right from the start. He's never put me first. These things, they always happen to me. Why am I so cursed?
What a shame. I guess your marriage was arranged.
No, not at all. Just thought I could make him change. Whoa, I can't take it.
Yeah, it's just really not liking that track spacer. I think a big problem is like I'm actually live streaming on Ecamm, and I have to use the Ecamm driver, which is just, it's garbage. Like, I'll say it. And the reason is because it only allows you to do 44.1. You can't do 48. You can't do 96. You can't do any other sample rate. And it's just a bad driver. It's just hard to make work with a lot of this streaming stuff. So this Dyne Audio, I'll take this to low level on the master Q, because that's going to be a huge processor suck. And we should be good there. Yeah, it's crazy. You can like get like brand new computers and just like max them out so easy, especially with mixing. This is why it's so funny when people try to mix their own records. I'm like, how do you mix your own record off of a decent MacBook Pro? Like, you're not really mixing, you know? You're tying your hands. Another thing, we don't need all these delays. I don't think I'm actually using any delay on any of these. So I'm going to actually just delete these and get rid of some of this stuff that's just kind of sucking up. I think I'll use the slop delay. And this rap verb, I don't think I'm going to be using that either. The fattening I might use, so.
Tell you now about my no good rotten spouse. He goes out every night and leaves me in this wretched house.
What a sin.
Whoa, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me?
So you guys see that I have the track spacer kind of ducking those areas of the vocals every time they hit on the chorus, right? Because these are all getting this key bus. So watch this frequency of the acoustic as you hear the chorus come in.
Oh, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me?
Super important, because now the vocals stay on top of the track. They don't get clobbered by all that stuff going on the chorus. Same thing with the drums, right? So you can see I have the same thing on the drums. So I'm just starting to dial this in. You can open up this and you can go a little heavier on the attack, right? Like I can go faster on the attack, and I can go a little bit faster on the release as well. And there you go. Like you can also do this in mid-side mode. So if I go mid-side mode, I can just get the middle of the signal, having the vocals take over the middle, right? So I think that's a really cool thing in this plugin. But here we go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go and find that vocal range so that the drums get dipped in just those frequencies.
Oh, I can't take it anymore. I I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me?
To answer your question, James, no. I mean, I literally, every single mix that I do is its own artist master mix. Like, I do things specifically for the record. No mix of mine is ever going to be done the same way. So if I need to use a certain tool or use a certain technique, I use it to make the record work. So I just know on this record, I don't want to be chiseling out a bunch of stuff because it'll make it sound less organic. And as you start to use a ton of EQ and you start shaping and doing stuff with acoustic instruments, they start to get really thin, they start to get squeaky, they start to get tinny. I don't want any of that. I just want the vocals to pop out when the vocals need to pop out. So that's why I'm using that technique on this mix. So let's get this EBow going, because I think that this is something that I really want to send to some effects and just get it sounding cooler. And you notice it's also kind of right up the center in a certain frequency range, which I'm hearing is like right around 1K, is like right around the vocal range. So I'll just show that to you. There's also fuzz and noise from, obviously, like they were taking it through some analog processors. There's also a bunch of low end, just like congesting the mix. Don't need it. You know, why would you need 80 hertz or like 40 hertz down here on that sound when you got the bass and stuff taking up that area? So we're going to listen to just the fundamental area, and I'm also going to get rid of some of this fuzz up here, right? And you can, if you don't want to be so crazy with it, you can also just use like a shelf, you know, do something like that and just gain it down. But I'm pretty confident that I want to get rid of a lot of that stuff there, just because it's not really serving it. It's just noise in the track. And then I'm gonna do some stuff to make this sound a little bit more interesting. So the first thing I think to do is do some cool stuff with like trying to make it sound like it's further back and tucked back. So I'm just gonna send it to this slap delay that I have and just kind of put it in a room is what I want to do. So let's see, slappy clappy pappy. We can also widen it out as well. So the fattening bus, like check out what this fattening bus does for this. Now it's going to help it really stand out in the mix, but the next thing we need to do is really kind of tuck it back, because I think it's just like too in your face right now. So a good thing to do is just kind of give it a room sound. So it doesn't need to be crazy, but I think something that's going to just kind of give it more space. So let's try the Valhalla shimmer. This could be crazy, actually. This could be totally the wrong thing to do. But let's go like a dual pitch on this. Let's make the reverb like medium stereo. We'll barely mix it in. I don't know about the shifting. We'll see here. And then the size, 50 is pretty big. Low cut, take all that up. And then the high cut, we don't really want a bunch of high stuff in there. As we know, it's all just noise. Really cool texture on that now. And if we want to, we can be a little bit more, you know, crazy with the EQ. All right, and then let's also just kind of stereo this out a little bit. One thing I want to do is just kind of make it more stereo, more like, you know, more ethereal is basically what I have in mind here. So what I'm going to use is, let me see here, BX Digital has a really cool one, Stereo Maker. This is a great one. I really love this plugin. You could do this with a lot of different plugins, but let's try like violins, might be a good start. And then instead of the shimmer, I'm going to try just using like a reverb here. So just something kind of lush sounding. Valhalla vintage verb is also very nice on this. And we can do like a plate or a chamber, or even like a chorus space might be really cool. And we'll go like this, just make it like a newer sound. And I think probably 3 to 4 is somewhere around there. High cut that stuff, low cut that stuff. We don't need any of that. And then we don't need the bass mold. And then I think the bass, like being around like 300 or so is good.
When did this all begin? When did this all begin?
We've been apart right from the start.
Now, something that this does that's just really, really cool for this track is that it gives it dimension, because you have all this other stuff that's kind of on this plane, and then you have like a live room, and then you have those stomps and claps, which are a little bit deeper, and then you got this EBO that kind of comes out and like, whoa, it makes it like a really big world. And I also think it kind of speaks to like the thought process and the conversation going on in the folk piece. So you got to be careful, because you don't want it to be too spacey, which is starting to get there. But you do want it to kind of be bigger than the mix, so that it does give dimension. And you can't have dimension if you don't have perspective. Really think about that. You ever watch Bob Ross do a painting? And he's like, yeah, you doing the painting? And you're like, oh, where's this going? And then all of a sudden he puts like the mountain in the background, and then he puts like the trees in the foreground, and he puts the plants like right in your face. And all of a sudden the mountain looks like it's, whoa, it's way back there. It's because you have that perspective. And if you don't have perspective in your mix, and you have everything reverbed out, nothing's in front, nothing's, you know, then you don't have depth. It's just the way it works. So I think this is working really nicely. I might just like be a little more subtle on the reverb.
When did this all begin? When did this all begin?
We've been apart right from the start. He's never put me first. These things, they always happen to me. Why am I so cursed?
What a shame. I guess your marriage was arranged. Your marriage was arranged.
No, not at all. Just thought I could make him change. Whoa, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not?
Another thing I want to do is I really want to compress these guitars kind of heavy. You know, just because compressed guitars are going to sound much better in a mix like this. You don't want them being too dynamic. You just want them giving that texture and that edge during these chorus parts when they pop out. So I'm going to grab because now I'm getting into like processor heavy stuff, I'm gonna grab something from the UAD. So let's grab a 660. I think this is great for what we're doing here. And then you can literally just grab like a guitar, electric guitar start or something. It doesn't really matter for now. We'll see, electric guitar start here. Love it. All right, so now we just want to get like some good compression going so that it's really holding this sound together. All right, let's hear it in the mix now with everything. I feel like that just holds it together better. You don't have the mids popping as much. Just kind of solidified.
I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me?
Okay, so another thing I'm going to do on the bass here, it's a plugin I really like from Native Instruments that I think is very slept on, and it's called Supercharger, and it's pretty damn cool. I really like this plugin on bass. I don't know why, it's just such a great like bass plugin. It just gives like a really good edge to things. So let's go electric bass. There you go. And I'll probably just kind of dial some things in here. Just makes it feel much tighter, more focused. And then we're blending in just a little bit of that saturation that's going to help it just kind of stick out in the mix a little bit better. So let's hear it in the mix now.
Oh, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? past the last of my worries at this point. The divorce is almost final, but the custody is joint.
Oh, that's too bad. I'm sure on weekends you'll be sad.
No, in fact, I want him back to move in with his father. I rue the day that he was born, he's nothing but a bother.
I understand. Your pregnancy was never planned.
No, that's not true. But now I'm trapped by his demand.
Okay, so next thing I want to do is I want to treat just the sides of the instrument bus, because I feel like the banjos and acoustic guitars and all the sides and all this plucky stuff going on the sides is going to start to get on my nerves a little bit, right? Just the way it works when it just starts to get too much, too much high mids and plucky, stringy kind of stuff. So here I'm just going to give myself a little bit of a EQ here, probably like with the stringy stuff. I'm going to listen for it, but it's going to be like up in the top. And then what I'll do here is I'll put it in the sides only, right? So I want to just kind of find that frequency that's annoying me.
Oh, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? That's the past, the last. Oh, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? That's the past, the last. Oh, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? That's the past, the last of my worries at this point. The divorce is almost final, but the custody is joint.
Oh, that's too bad. I'm sure on weekends you'll be sad.
No, in fact, I want him back to move in with his father. I rue the day that he was born, he's nothing but a bother.
I understand. Your pregnancy was never planned.
No, that's not true. But now I'm trapped by his demands. Whoa, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me?
Now, just to make the instruments kind of pop, but still be like, I just want them to be warmer. I don't want them to be so stringy. Is like kind of what I'm trying to do with EQ, but it's just not really doing what I want it to do. So I'm going to use just some saturation, some simple saturation with tubes, right? So I'll do like a Manley, I think would be really nice on this. And I always like Manley on instrument buses. Just tickle, like very, very small tickle of compression on the instrument bus. And it just kind of makes things pop, like it makes it go, oh, there they are, there's everything. So you can always just do like a mix bus kind of thing, drum overhead. And then I always do like a beginning sort of preset here because it's just going to get me there faster and I know what I'm looking for. So stereo bus compression, perfect example, right? Because you have a bunch of complex information hitting the instrument bus. So the threshold is at the minimum, which means it's going to be at its highest. It's going to be compressing the most. And what you want to play with on the Manley is the input gain and the threshold. That's where you're going to get all your color. You can also do like a parallel wet dry mix here. But I think as long as the attack is good and we can kind of dial in the recoveries fast, that's great. Okay, so let's dial this in and I'll show you. It's just going to make kind of the instruments go like, whoa, they came to life.
Oh, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? That's the past, the last of my worries at this point. The divorce is almost final, but the custody is joint.
Oh, that's too bad. I'm sure on weekends you'll be sad.
No, in fact, I want him back to move in with his father. I rue the day that he was born, he's nothing but a bother.
I understand. Your pregnancy was never planned.
No, that's not.
Like it's just magical, what a variable mu compressor can do. Just because you're going through tubes and tubes are just colorful. They just always add such a nice color. So now we're at the point where I want to start to really dial in the master bus. And that's just going to be kind of like cleaning and taming and making sure that we're not getting over compressed on the loudest parts, because I really don't want this to feel heavily compressed. I really want to keep the organic feel to it. I want it to be compressed like crazy and sound like a record and sound glued together, but I don't want you to hear the compression. I don't want you to be like, oh man, he used way too much compression on this. And when you can hear the compression, it takes you out of the listening experience. And that's what I've always noticed, no matter what, is that when you're first getting into mixing or you're first getting into trying to understand these plugins and the gear and the outboard and all that stuff, is you always overdo it because your ear's not tuned to it. And then once your ear gets tuned to it, you notice it everywhere, right? And I don't mind noticing it a little bit on a track, but when it gets to like a really organic track, you want to be really careful. And I think at this point, I turn the volume down pretty damn low. And I really just focus on like what's popping out, what's sticking out. And then I turn it up where I'm hearing everything full. And I do that very, like just for 30 seconds or something. And I'm like, whoa, okay, everything's pumping and sounding great. And then on the SM9s, I go to two-way mode and I make sure everything's coming through that. And I just kind of get the balance right with everything. And I don't know if I'll use the Pro L2 because I'm actually demoing it right now. And I'm just like not really feeling what it's doing for the limiting. But I'll put it in and out. And I have the Dyne 1 doing parallel. So this is a really good sculpting tool. I'll start to sculpt this a little bit more and get the low end right. And then the Gullfoss is doing some real nice cleanup stuff. But it might be cleaning up too much, which starts to make it kind of sound sterile and starts to get into that brittle, tinny kind of sound, which I don't like about the Gullfoss. So a little bit goes a long way. So I'm just going to kind of like, manipulate shit and see where we're at.
Oh, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? Well, now I see. You always choose your misery. Oh, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? Oh, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not? I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? Well, now I see. You always choose your misery. must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me?
So last thing I want to maybe try on the master bus, just to kind of get this all to work together, because I still feel like it's just like, it's almost there, is going to be a tape machine, because I feel like a tape machine would really like help this glue together. And I want to put it in a certain order. I want the tape machine to come right before the Gullfoss. So I'm going to do, let's see, I'm going to do the Studer, I think, because I really like the Studer, the A800. And we just want the tape on. We don't want to like be pushing the tape or anything. I just know that it'll kind of give it that glue that I'm looking for. You know, because like all the high frequencies and low frequencies and mids, like they all kind of like, it's like a pokey kind of weird thing going on that I really don't like. But let's just go like a mastering setting. It doesn't matter, just to start with, and then we'll tweak it. Ultra linear. Yeah, we could do ultra linear at like 30 IPS plus 9. That's a good way to go. And then I'll bring this down to plus 6 just because I don't want to overdo it. And then let's just check the levels on this and see where we're at.
I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? Well, now I see. You always choose your misery. Oh, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? Well, now I see. You always choose your misery. Oh, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? Well, now
I really like what that's doing. Obviously, we're losing some level, but that's okay. We're going to make that up on the limiter. I don't like this. I think this should be more around here just to get this vocal going a little bit more. And then this 2K area is just harsh as crap. I hate it. So let's go pretty fast on this. And that's good. That looks good. I think we can bring that up a little bit. And we can definitely bring this to more of like the 300 area. I think this 300 area is pretty chunky. And then after this, I'm going to use a limiter, not the Pro L. I'm actually going to just open up the isotope limiter and use the full chain of EQ. I'll show you what I'm going to do here. So we'll just go Ozone 9, and there's only really 3 plugins I really like out of this, and it's the EQ, the dynamic EQ, and the maximizer, and I like it in this sequence as well. So that way I can set this guy. True peak is probably where I'm going to go with this one. And then we'll go modern or classic on it. I'm not really sure yet. And that's where we're going to get some of that. We might transient emphasize, but if I'm going to do any of that, it's just going to be a little bit on the stereo. And then we'll go kind of quicker on the character here. And on this EQ, I'll just pay attention. We're going to find whatever is going to help us clean up before we hit the maximizer to make sure that we're getting really, really just like transparent limiting. I don't want to be hearing the limiting, like I said. And this is already at -10 LUFs, which is pretty hot. So I'm just going to back that off a little bit. It's hot for a track like this. It's not hot for like a trap record or something, you know. But I like what the Studer's doing. It's doing exactly what I want it to do. I actually might want to bring this low EQ down, and I might want to bring the highs up just a touch. And that should be cool for me. And let's try that out.
must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? Well, now I see.
It's just misery.
Oh, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? Well, now I see. I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else. I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see.
It's just misery.
I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? Well, now I see.
It's just misery.
Take it anymore. I'm being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody has it good from what I see. Why not me? Well, now I see.
It's just misery. When did this all begin? When did this all begin?
We've been apart right from the start. He's never put me first. These things, they always happen to me. Why am I so cursed?
What a shame. I guess your marriage was arranged.
No, not at all. Just thought I could make him change. Whoa, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? Oh, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? We've been apart right from the start, he's never put me first. These things, they always happen to me, why am I so cursed?
What a shame. I guess your marriage was arranged.
No, not at all. Just thought I could make him change. Whoa, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? That's the past, the last of my worries at this point. The divorce is almost final, but the custody is joint.
Oh, that's too bad. I'm sure on weekends you'll be sad.
No, in fact, I want him back to move in with his father. I rue the day that he was born, he's nothing but a bother.
I understand. Your pregnancy was never planned.
No, that's not true. But now I'm trapped by his demands. Whoa, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? Well, now I see.
You always choose your misery.
We've been apart right from the start, he's never put me first. These things, they always happen to me, why am I so cursed?
What a shame. I guess your marriage was arranged.
No, not at all. Just thought I could make him change. Whoa, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? That's the past, the last of my worries at this point. The divorce is almost final, but the custody is joint.
Oh, that's too bad. I'm sure on weekends you'll be sad.
No, in fact, I want him back to move in with his father. I rue the day that he was born, he's nothing but a bother.
I understand. Your pregnancy was never planned.
No, that's not true. But now I'm trapped by his demands. Whoa, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? Well, now I see.
You always choose your misery.
It's me in this wretched house.
What a s- When did this all begin?
We've been apart right from the start, he's never put me first. These things, they always happen to me, why am I so cursed?
What a shame. I guess your marriage was arranged.
No, not at all. Just thought I could make him change. I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? That's the past, the last of my worries at this point. The divorce is almost final, but the custody is joint.
Oh, that's too bad. I'm sure on weekends you'll be sad.
No, in fact, I want him back to move in with his father. I rue the day that he was born, he's nothing but a bother.
I understand. Your pregnancy was never planned.
No, that's not true. But now I'm trapped by his demands. Whoa, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? Well, now I see.
You always choose your misery.
Cool. I think it's pretty damn close. I might actually make a bounce and then listen to it in the car and listen to it in the ear pods and listen to it over the speakers on the phone and all that stuff. But I think this is at a really, really good level. I would like to see kind of where we're at LUFs wise. I think we're probably around like -8 to -9, somewhere around there. So a good way to check that is just open up, one of my favorites for this is going to be the Hawkeye. So if I go in here and do the SPL Hawkeye, I can check out the LUFs, I can check out other stuff on the meter, and just kind of go to the loudest part and just kind of see where that's reading out. And then I can make a bounce and check everything and reference everything, and it's sounding good to me. I don't know. What do you guys think? You let me know. All right, and then let's play this and let's just check the LUFs and check out the levels.
Whoa, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure. Everybody else has it good from what I see. Why not me? Well, now I see.
You always choose your misery.
Whoa, I can't take it anymore. I must be being punished, but for what I'm not quite sure.
So that's really good. At the loudest point, it's like right around -9.4 LUFs. And for a record like this, that's probably where I'd want to be. I could probably go a little less loud, you know, but I might give him 2 bounces. I might say, hey, here's the loud one. Here's the one that's like a -9 on the LUFs, and it's pretty loud, pretty damn loud. And then I might give him another one that's going to be backed off on the limiting, right? So I take this up probably like to -2, -1.5, etc. And I get him an LUFs of around like -12 is what I want to hit, like a -11, -12. And then I'd send him that and say, hey, here's your loud, here's your not so loud and more dynamic. And that's kind of how I do it. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate you guys coming through the live. And I know that mixing and mastering can be a pretty damn boring subject, but I fucking love it. I do it as an art. It's my art. I absolutely, like, as I'm working, as I'm doing this stuff, I'm doing stuff artistically. And I'm like moving and inching and stuff because That's just kind of part of it. And I'll probably go listen to this on 3 to 5 different pieces of, devices or whatever. And I'll come back and I'll make some more tweaks. I might tweak like the mid range. I might tweak the low end. I might tweak the highs. I might tweak the limiting. I might tweak, I might DS a little harder, whatever. So there's always going to be things that kind of jump out in different systems. I'm pretty used to my speakers. I've been using these Focal SM9s been mixing on them, mastering on them, recording on them, producing on them for the last about 9 years or so. So I'm very familiar with them. I know how they translate, which is like really the key to good monitoring. And those are kind of my final thoughts on this. I'm going to make this bounce, and I'm going to go. Oh, one last thing I want to show you. Before you make a bounce and you're going through all this stuff that has the ability to do look ahead, oversampling, etc. For example, I don't want to have the SPL on here. That's just metering. But when I go into the Dyne 1, right? I want to put this on master quality crossover filters. That's going to do, that's just going to be a way, way, way more precise filtering. And it's just going to be great. Like that's going to really help this translate better when I bounce it, right? And I can't really have that on while I'm mixing just because it causes a lot of like latency, but it also causes, just streaming issues with the CPU and stuff. And then on Ozone 9, you can also, I forget where you do this, but you could basically turn oversampling on this as well. And I'm not sure, I forget where to do this, but it's been a while. But what I want to do basically on all my master stuff is turn it on the highest quality possible. And another thing is you got Soothe too on these buses. And this actually has the ability to do offline processing at 4 times oversampling on ultra quality. So I make sure that all these things that I was mixing with are all going to be bouncing at offline processing with a ton of oversampling, and it's going to get the highest quality possible. That's really, really important to the bounce. And I think the Weiss actually might also have expert parameters, safety limiter. Yeah, there's other stuff in here, but I'll make sure that anything that can oversample, processing-wise, look ahead, all that stuff, that it's going to be on and it's going to be effectively doing that, just so that I can get the highest quality possible out of my bounce. And I usually do real-time bounces on Pro Tools because I've just had so many errors happen on Pro Tools where there's like a click at the beginning or a pop that happens. So I typically just do the bounce in real time, which makes it a little bit harder, but sometimes the computer can't handle it. But there's also a setup on here, and I think there might be some other stuff here. So you have like high pass frequency slopes, you can do that at a steeper or a looser, smoother kind of vibe. Inner sample peaks, you have that on. You can do, let's see, I think that's about it. Trying to think of anything that's going to be like, see how this is like optimized for CPU or latency. You want to make sure that CPU is on. That's going to be the highest possible quality. Save compression, I think that's fine. Smallest, medium, whatever. So I just kind of like look at all this stuff and make sure that I have the highest qualities on all these processors, because I want to make sure when I make that bounce, it's going to be at the highest, finest quality possible. And that's it. That's the final word I got to say to you guys. And I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to make this bounce and go listen to it everywhere, and probably take an ear break before I do that as well. So have a good night, guys. Thanks for tuning in. And till next time, I'll do some more mixes as well. Like I'll do more mixing, mastering live, maybe some production stuff, right? That'd be fun. And I'll do it with different genres as well. I'll do some trap records. I'll do some R&B records, some pop records, some funk records, soul records, blues, R&B. I mean, I mix everything. I mix it all. I love mixing. It's my passion. And, if you guys ever need mixing, of course, you know where to find me. All right. Have a good night. Peace out, baby. Peace.